Namaste, and welcome back to Baatcheat. This is our fifth weekly conversation. Baatcheat means conversations in Hindi, and these are really intended as your cheat sheet for EVs and batteries.
That's right. And we always keep a close eye on China and India. You know, the dynamic we keep seeing is China, the powerhouse, the leader right now.
Definitely. And then India, which is just, well, brewing with potential huge demand driving things forward.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we'll do what we usually do, walk you through the key news snippets, kind of like telling a story. We'll start with China, then swing over to India.
And the big story out of China, you really can't miss it, is this major battery event. We're calling it the Big China Battery Event, CIBF 2025. We've got the report right here.
Yep, the CIBF 2025 report. And we've also got our handy EV battery term sheet nearby, just in case some of those abbreviations pop up.
Good call. Okay, let's jump right in. Shenzhen, May 15th to 17th. The thing was big, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely massive. I mean, picture this. Over 3,500 exhibitors from 52 different countries.
Wow.
Spread across 12 halls. That's like 280,000 square meters. And the visitor numbers, over 182,000 people showed up.
And a lot of international folks, too.
Yeah, about a quarter, 25% international. Plus, you had over 120 live product demos happening. And get this, over $12 billion in deals were signed.
$12 billion. That includes the big KTL Tesla deal we heard about.
That's right. That supply agreement was part of that huge figure. It really shows the scale of business happening.
Incredible. So which booths were really drawing the crowds? What was the buzz about?
Well, you had the big names, naturally. CATL, they're the global leader, right? They had their solid-state battery prototype on display. Huge interest there.
Makes sense. Who else?
BYD, another giant. They actually debuted an EV running on sodium-ion batteries. That's a big deal, because sodium-ion could mean, much cheaper batteries down the line.
Interesting, sodium-ion. Yeah.
Tesla was there too, showing off their new V4 supercharger, faster charging, basically, and talking about their battery recycling efforts. Good to see that focus.
Yeah, the whole circular economy thing is crucial.
Definitely. And LG Energy Solution, they had an AI-powered battery management system, a BMS smarter batteries, essentially. And maybe a bit of a surprise, Toyota.
Toyota, what were they showing?
They showcased a solid-state EV concept with a claimed 1,000-kilometer range. It really signals they're jumping seriously into this advanced battery game.
Okay, 1,000 kilometers. That's wow. So lots of tech advancements. Let's break down the big ones the report mentioned.
Yeah.
Solid-state, sodium-ion, and ultra-fast charging. What's the latest on solid-state?
Right, solid-state. So CATL's prototype, they're talking 420 watt-hours per kilogram. Way HKG, that's energy density by weight, more energy, less weight.
Higher is better, basically.
Exactly. And 1,200 charge cycles. They're aiming for a pilot production line in 2026.
2026, okay, that's coming up fast.
It is. Toyota's aiming even higher, 500 weight lines, 1,500 cycles, and targeting mass production in 2027. And then you have QuantumScape, working through a JV targeting 380 wedge tail lines, 800 cycles by 2028.
So multiple players converging around that 2026 to 2028 timeframe. Feels like it's getting real.
It really does. This could unlock, significantly more range, maybe faster charging too.
Okay, now sodium-ion. You mentioned BYD's debut. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the BYD Seagull model using sodium-ion. It hit 160 Wk share, which is decent. And get this, charged 10 to 80% in just 12 minutes.
12 minutes, that's quick.
Super quick. And it's aimed at those smaller, more affordable EVs. Then there was Heine, showing their battery 200 Weshco 15-minute charge, but more targeted towards grid storage.
Grid storage, right. And the big appeal is cost.
Absolutely. Sodium is way more abundant and cheaper than lithium, so potentially much cheaper batteries could really help bring down EV prices and make grid storage way more economical.
Lower cost, fast charging. Sounds like a potential game changer. What about the push for even faster charging speeds? Ultra-fast charging.
Still a huge focus. CATL showed off their Shengxing Plus battery. It supports 4C charging. C rate tells you how fast you can charge relative to capacity. 4C means, theoretically, a full charge in 15 minutes.
15 minutes, wow.
And crucially, with an 800-volt system, which allows more power flow, they can get a really significant charge in just 10 minutes.
10 minutes is impulse charging territory?
Pretty much. And Tesla, with their V4 supercharger, is pushing peak power up to 350 kilowatts. Likely for bigger vehicles, like the Cybertrucks, they can still juice up reasonably fast.
Makes sense. These faster speeds are key to killing that range anxiety people still talk about.
Totally. It makes EVs much more practical for everyone.
Okay. Beyond performance, CIBF also highlighted sustainability, particularly battery recycling. What's the progress there?
Yeah, this is super important. Brump, They showcase their process, hydrometallurgy 3.0, achieving 95% lithium recovery. That's huge.
95%. How does that work, hydrometallurgy?
It basically uses chemical solutions to leach out the valuable metals from old batteries. Less energy intensive than, say, pyrometallurgy, which uses high heat.
Got it. Who else?
Redwood Materials, they mentioned 92% recovery for nickel and cobalt, and they highlighted a partnership between the EU and China. Shows it's a global effort.
Good to see collaboration.
And Tesla talked about their dust-to-dust program, aiming for 90% overall material recovery. Getting these rates high is essential for, closing the loop and relying less on new mining.
Definitely encouraging progress. So, based on everything at CIBF, what are the big future trends the report predicted?
Okay, some interesting timelines. 2026. We should start seeing those solid-state pilot lines.
The one CATL and others are working on.
Exactly. Then 2027, the prediction is sodium-ion batteries could actually overtake LFP lithium iron phosphate for grid storage.
Why is that? LFP is pretty established.
LFP is great for safety and cycle life, but sodium-ion's potential cost advantage might make it the winner for large-scale stationary storage where energy density isn't the absolute top priority.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. What else?
2028, they see AI automating maybe 40% of battery production, think efficiency gains, maybe cost reductions, and by 2030, expect strong recycling mandates in Europe and China, pushing for 90% or even higher recovery rates.
So big shifts coming in manufacturing and regulation too.
Right.
If you had to boil down CIBF 2025 into, say, 3 key takeaways for our listeners, what would they be?
Okay, 3 things. 1, solid-state batteries are moving towards commercial reality. That 2026-2028 window looks like the start.
Okay, solid state timeline.
2, sodium-ion. It's got real disruptive potential, both for making EVs cheaper and for shaking up grid storage.
Sodium ion's impact. Got it.
And 3, recycling is getting serious. The regulatory push for high recovery rates is coming, and the tech is improving fast. Sustainability is becoming central.
Solid state timeline, sodium ion disruption, and the recycling push. Great summary.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. There was other big news out of China too, right? Starting with CATL again.
Yeah, fresh off CIBF, CATL announced their first battery base in northern China, Jiangning. In Shandong province has started production.
First in the north. How big is it? Phase 1 is already 60 gigawatt hours, which is huge. And the plan is for this to become the largest battery base in China by total planned capacity. Phases 2 and 3 are coming later this year and next, aiming for a massive, $14 billion battery cluster there.
Wow, 60 gigawatts good for phase 1. They're really cementing that lead. They still have the biggest market share, right?
Yep, held 38.3% globally in the first quarter of 2025. Just dominant.
Okay, what about BYD?
Right.
They're making moves beyond just EVs, especially in storage.
Absolutely. Big news from them, a new deal with Spain's Grenergy. They're supplying another 3.5 gigawatt of energy storage systems for this massive project in Chile, the Oasis Atacama.
Another 3.5. How much is that in total now?
That brings their total supply for this project to 6.5 gigawatt a year. It's the single largest energy storage deal in Latin America. And they're using their MC3T system with those blade batteries, which apparently improves space usage by 98%.
Blade batteries are super efficient spatially.
Yeah.
And the whole project.
The Oasis Atacama project aims for up to 11 gigawatt of storage eventually. That's more storage capacity than the entire UK or Germany has right now.
That's incredible scale.
Yeah.
Shows BYD's power and storage too.
For sure. Their total battery production, power, and storage combined was over 79 gigawatt just from January to April this year, up almost 87% year on year. Massive growth.
Mind-boggling numbers.
Yeah.
And Goshen High Tech, they're also in the solid-state race.
Yes, they just launched their first experimental production line for all solid-state batteries. They're calling it Gemstone. It's a smaller scale, 0.2 gigawatt design capacity.
Experimental. Okay. What's special about it?
Well, they're emphasizing that the core equipment is locally produced in China. And the battery cell itself, the Gemstone, boasts 350 weight Kio-Gemaregi density. That's significantly better than current high-end lithium batteries.
350 weight Chegos, that's solid-state territory. What's their timeline?
Small volume production and putting them in test vehicles in 2027, aiming for mass production around 2030. Again, lining up with CATL and BYD's rough timelines. Goshen's market share is smaller, about 3.5%, sixth globally, but they're clearly pushing hard on next-gen tech.
Seems like 2027, 2030 is the window everyone's watching for solid state. Okay, let's zoom out to the overall Chinese EV market. How are sales looking for May?
pretty strong. According to the CPCA, the Passenger Car Association, they're forecasting NEV, new energy vehicle retail sales, to hit 980,000 units in May.
Almost a million. How does that compare?
That's up 23% from last May and up over 8% from April. And the really big number, the NEV penetration rate, is expected to hit 52.9%.
Over half. So more than half the cars sold are electric or plug-in hybrid.
For the first time, yeah. That's a major milestone. Overall car sales are also up, projected at 1.85 million units for May. They think the recent Labor Day holiday discounts and local auto shows really helped boost demand.
Crossing 50% penetration is huge. What about the weekly numbers, week 20 data?
All right, the insurance registration data for May 12th to 18th. Total cars, 390,000, up 16%. EVs specifically, 218,000, up nearly 30% year on year. That pushed the EV penetration for the week to a new high for the year, 55.9%.
Even higher for that week. Which brand stood out?
BYD was still on top with 55,100, but that was actually down quite a bit, almost 19% from the previous week. Tesla had a massive rebound, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 11,130 units, up over 260% week on week, their best week in a while. Xiaomi held steady around 7,160, up 38%. NIO was up slightly at 4,240. Leapmotor saw a good jump to 9,240.
What about the others? Leapmotor, Ido, Xpeng.
Most of the others saw slight dips week on week. Leapmotor 7,500, Ido just under 7,500, Xpeng 500 and 800. It's very competitive, fluctuates a lot week to week.
And NIO's other brands, Onvo and Firefly.
Right, the whole NIO group together did 6,650 units, up almost 10%. Onvo was down slightly at 1,580, but Firefly saw a big jump, up 76% to 830 units.
Interesting dynamics, but didn't Li Auto stop reporting weekly numbers?
They did, yeah. Following a recommendation from CM, the Auto Manufacturers Association, they felt the weekly reporting was maybe fueling some unhealthy competition. So we might see less of that super granular weekly data going forward.
Okay. That's a shame for us watchers, but maybe understandable. Now, there was also a report about independent EV mechanics facing lawsuits. What's going on there?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. It touches on the whole right to repair issue, but specifically for EVs in China. Independent shops are getting sued by automakers for doing repairs.
Dude for fixing cars?
Essentially, yes. There's a well-known mechanic, Brother Long, who's been targeted. And more seriously, a couple of mechanics in Shanghai actually got jail time for unlocking battery packs. The automakers argue only their authorized shops can guarantee safety and quality, given the complex tech.
Jail time seems extreme. What are the underlying issues?
Well, first, there isn't really strong right to repair legislation for EVs yet in China. Second, independent shops often can't get the official repair manuals, diagnostic tools, or even genuine parts easily. Automakers keep that locked down.
Which means repairs at dealerships are probably way more expensive.
Exactly. They often just replace whole units, like a whole charger module, when maybe an independent could fix a smaller component much cheaper. And batteries, the most expensive part, are a big issue here. Plus, warranties might be voided if you go outside the official network.
Sounds very tilted toward the manufacturers. Is anything changing?
There's debate, for sure. Some regulations technically say automakers should share repair info, but it's not really happening effectively for EVs. But there was some recent government guidance telling automakers to lower repair costs and open up the aftermarket.
So some official pushback.
A little, yeah. And there are efforts to standardize things like collision tests for insurance, which might help independents. But honestly, most experts think progress will be slow. The automakers make a lot of money from their service networks.
It's a tough situation for owners and independent businesses. Okay, let's transition now. From the established giant in China to the emerging potential in India. What's the latest there?
All right, shifting to India. Big news from Ashok Leyland, a major commercial vehicle player. They've laid out a 1,000 crore rupee capex plan. That's about $120 million US.
1,000 crore, what's the focus?
A lot of it is to support their subsidiaries, and a key goal is getting their EV arm, Switch Mobility, to break even by the end of fiscal year 26.
Switch Mobility.
Yeah.
They make electric buses and trucks, right?
Exactly. And between Ashok Leyland and Switch, they actually have the widest range of electric trucks in India right now, from lighter 2-ton ones up to 19-ton models like the BOS electric truck.
So this investment is to really push Switch forward.
Seems like it. Leadership sounds optimistic about FY26 for Switch. They had a strong finish to FY25. Switch apparently hit double-digit EBITDA margins in Q4.
EBITDA. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Basically operating profit looking good.
Right. So they were EBITDA positive in FY25 and are aiming for full break-even in FY26. Ashok Leyland itself is financially strong, good revenue, decent cash reserves. This house and core capex is similar to last year's.
What's driving Switch's momentum? New products, orders.
Both. They launched 8 new products last year, EV and other alternative fuels. Customer demand for EVs is strong. They've got big orders for heavy e-trucks, like 180 units of the BSAV and the AVTR 55-ton EV. Plus, they're investing in electric LCVs, too.
And alternative fuels?
Near term, they're focused on battery electric and LNG liquefied natural gas. Hydrogen is more of a longer-term play for them.
Okay, a broad strategy. Now, public transport electrification. Bengaluru seems to be getting a lot of e-buses under the PM e-drive scheme.
Yeah, a huge chunk, almost 4,500 buses allocated to Bengaluru. That's like 40% of the total 11,300 approved in this phase.
40%. Where are the others going?
Hyderabad gets 2,000, Delhi 2,800, Ahmedabad 1,000, Surat 600. It's part of this big PM e-drive push, aiming for over 14,000 e-buses nationwide by March 2026. Huge budget, around 10,900 crore. It's one of the biggest public transport electrification drives globally.
Massive program.
Yeah.
But buses need chargers. What's the plan for infrastructure?
Also a big focus under PME drive. The central government announced 2,000 crore, about $240 million, to set up around 72,000 public EV charging points across the country.
72,000. Where will they put them?
Strategically placed along 50 major national highways, plus key spots in cities, metro stations, toll plazas, airports, railway stations, even existing petrol pumps. The goal is really to tackle that range anxiety issue head on.
72,000 is a serious number. Who's managing that rollout?
They're looking at BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Ltd., a big public sector company, to potentially be the main agency. They'd figure out demand, maybe aggregate orders, and develop an app.
An app for charging.
Yeah, the idea is an app for booking slots, making payments, checking if charges are free, and even tracking the nationwide rollout progress. The target is to get those 72,000 chargers installed by the end of FY26.
How many chargers does India have now?
As of April this year, about 26,367 public ones. They added over 1,000 just in the first 3 months of 2025, so there's momentum. And there's a specific focus on highways, too, for intercity travel and electric trucks.
Makes sense. And the PM e-drive funding, it covers chargers and vehicles.
Right. Nearly 40% of that 10,900 crore budget is for e-bus incentives, and another 500 crore is specifically for electric trucks.
Okay, good central government push. What about the state level? Maharashtra just updated its EV policy.
They did. A big update for their 2025 policy. Total budget. Ours, 11,373 crore, and they're adding state-level incentives on top of the central one.
Okay, what kind of incentives? For buyers?
Yeah, demand-side subsidies. For passenger EVs, the first 10,000 buyers get Rs 1.5 lakh off. If you're buying for a fleet, it's Rs 2 lakh for the first 10,000.
That's significant. What about commercial vehicles?
Electric LCVs under 3.5 tons get Rs 1 lakh for the first 10,000. Buses for state transport or private operators get a hefty Rs 20 lakh subsidy for the first 1,500 buses in each category.
And two-wheelers and three-wheelers. They're huge segments in India.
Yep, covered too. Electric two-wheelers get Rs 10,000 off the ex-factory price for the first 100,000 users. Electric three-wheelers, like e-rickshaws and cargo autos, get Rs 30,000 for the first 10,000 in each category.
Wow, really comprehensive subsidies. What about charging infrastructure in the Maharashtra policy?
Big focus there, too. They're requiring all new and existing fuel stations on highways to install at least one fast charger where possible. They'll sign agreements with the oil companies.
Making charging more visible and accessible.
Exactly. Plus, viability gap funding, basically financial support up to Rs 5 lakh for setting up DC fast charging stations, 250 kilowatts, if you install at least 4 chargers.
Would probably cover the setup costs.
Right. And even more support Rs 10 lakh, or for new charging stations specifically for electric trucks and buses needing powerful chargers, 250 to 500 kilowatts. They're also setting up a state agency to create an integrated charging plan, even looking at things like using renewable energy or battery storage at stations.
Sounds very well thought out. Anything else notable?
They're proposing a pilot for V2G, vehicle to grid, allowing EVs to send power back to the grid, and a one-window online portal to make getting permits for charging stations easier.
V2G is quite forward-looking. Okay, turning to companies. Euler Motors raised funding.
They did. INR 638 crore in their Series D round. That's around $76 million, led by Hero MotoCorp, the big motorcycle company, with participation from British International Investment.
What will they use the funds for?
Expanding sales and service mostly, and developing new products. They make electric commercial vehicles, particularly popular in e-commerce and logistics. They have the high-load EV three-wheeler and the Storm EV four-wheeler LCV, which is actually the first in India with ADAS safety features.
ADAS on an LCV. Interesting. So strong backing for Euler. What about Greaves Electric Mobility? They're going for an IPO.
Yes, they got approval from SEBI, the market regulator, for a 1,000 crore IPO. About $120 million fresh equity, plus some existing investors selling shares.
Greaves Electric.
Yep.
They own the Ampere scooter brand, right?
That's them. The IPO funds are earmarked for R&D, setting up in-house battery assembly lines, increasing factory capacity, buying a bigger stake in a subsidiary, IT upgrades, maybe acquisitions. Pretty standard growth stuff.
And Ampere has that niche with the non-RTO scooters, the ones you don't need a license for.
Exactly. That's a key part of their strategy. Scooters like the Rio series are super affordable and easy to use, great for students, first-time riders, people in smaller towns, delivery folks. And importantly, their sales aren't fully captured in official registration data because they don't need registering.
So their actual market share might be bigger than it looks.
Quite possibly, especially in Tier 23 cities and rural areas. Greaves has 3 factories now and plans to significantly boost capacity by FY27. They had decent revenue last year, though took a one-time hit related to the FAME 2 subsidy adjustments. They have a pretty wide dealership network across India already.
Okay, so the IPO should help them scale up further. One last piece of news. TVS Motor Company and ODR Cabs.
Yeah, partnership there. TVS is supplying 500 of their King EV Max electric three-wheelers to ODR Cabs over the next fiscal year.
The King EV Max. What are its specs like?
Pretty good range for a three-wheeler, 179 kilometers. Fast-charging smart connectivity features. ODR Cabs runs a premium service, so these features fit well. The cabs will even have drinking water, roof insulation, and phone charging points for passengers.
Nice touches. How quickly will ODR deploy them?
Plan is 20-30 vehicles per month. They see it as creating jobs in underserved urban areas, too. The first 10 were just delivered in Trichy.
Good to see electrification happening in the three-wheeler taxi segment, too. Well, that wraps up our look at the key EV and battery news from China and India this week.
Yeah, it's always striking, isn't it? You see the sheer scale and relentless innovation in China, especially coming out of an event like CIBF. And then you look at India and you see this rapidly building momentum, strong policy support, and growth across so many different vehicle types and infrastructure.
Absolutely. The contrast, but also the interconnection, it's fascinating to track. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive today.
Always a pleasure.
We really hope you found this useful. We'd love to hear what you think. Any feedback you have, please do let us know. And definitely tune in again next week for our next conversation, keeping you updated on EVs and batteries in these 2 vital markets.